Okay, so welcome to
right.
everything you want to know about film funding. I'm your host, Carol Dean, president of From the Heart. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We support filmmakers. We offer sponsorship for all media products. And the sponsorship gives you education and many other benefits, and it allows your donors to get a tax deduction for their donations. And we have 4 Roy Dean grants a year. And the next grant is our spring, closing March 31st. And then the short film grant, closing April 30th. And they're both taking applications now. And I encourage you to take advantage of our blogs and our podcasts on our website, which is From the Heart Productions. We've got information on there for you, from crowdfunding to goal setting. So go to the resources tab and check that out, because we created all this information to help you with film funding, and we created the Everything You Want to Know classes to keep you updated with this ever-changing industry. And our class today is about artificial intelligence, and our moderator and internet technology person is Naheed Ishmael. He is a board member and he's an IT specialist, and he will be reading all of your questions for Jonathan. So Naheed, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you everyone for joining our class today. The outline for our class is we begin with Jonathan giving us an overview of what is in store for the film industry with AI technology. The purpose of the class is to learn how to survive and thrive in the new world of artificial intelligence. As you have questions, please put them in the chat bar and I will ask Jonathan for you. After the questions, we will have some fun and awards for film buffs. Carol created film questions for you. They're about classic films you love. The first one to put the answer in the chat bar is the winner. You can win Carol Dean's 3-hour class, How to Fund Your Film, that covers 5 ways to fund your film and covers pitching and closing your donors and investors. During the class, everyone will stay muted, and we encourage you to put your questions in the chat bar. This class is for you to take advantage of Jonathan's knowledge and learn all you can. That is our outline for today, and we sincerely appreciate you joining us. Let me introduce you to Jonathan Smith. Jonathan M. Smith is an actor, writer, producer who has been involved in the film industry for over 15 years. He started his career doing promos for Disney and Vogue as a teenager, and continued to work on multiple sets like Hannah Montana, Greek Numbers, Heart of Dixie, and The Mandalorian. At this time, Jonathan is currently producing and starring in a feature film called The Terrible Children. It has already been picked up by a distributor and is scheduled to release in the fall. On top of his film career, Jonathan has done work for SaaS companies and the educational industry. Jonathan, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, everyone. And just to get some background knowledge, does everybody know what SaaS means? S-A-A-S? No, it means sales as a service. So these are large technology companies. Think of Google. Google offers services, Amazon, sales as a service. So technology companies that offer a service to you that's software. So that's SaaS, just to give us some background information. So I've worked with large technology companies. So thankfully and humbly, that gives me some background knowledge that many entertainers and actors, writers, producers, directors don't have, just because I see what happens behind the scenes and can see trends that maybe other entertainers would not be able to see. Naheed, is there anything we need to do on our end before we start?
No, we're ready. We can begin.
All right, so let me share my screen. Does anybody else have any questions or want to make any statements before we start? All right, nothing in the chat box, so it looks like we're ready to go. So let's get everything going. So our first half of what we're going to talk about is the 5 future trends that I see happening in the film industry over the next decade. So think between now and 2030. Okay, so that's going to be our first half, and then we're going to break for questions. So if you have any questions that I'm doing, please save it. I will have a segment that's specifically for questions, and I'll gladly answer as many as I can. And I'm sure Carol will have some questions as well. So we'll have a scheduled break for that. So let's get started. So before going into the trends, it's important to understand the background of profitability for filmmaking. So just to give some background for people who don't know, most filmmaking, especially when you're talking about the studio level, is based on theater revenue. And right now we're seeing, even though people are talking about record profits, when it comes to different genres, we're mostly seeing consistent decreasing theater revenue. And that's affecting the business model of filmmaking drastically. So right now for theater revenue, for multiple genres, they've been consistently decreasing. And since the pandemic hit, they have taken a nosedive. Home video sales have also tanked while streaming has taken off. This has affected the profitability as well. So video sales, even if you had a movie that didn't do well at the box office, studios and the producers could depend on VHS, DVD, Blu-rays to make up for lost revenue that that the box office didn't make. And then you also have other revenue streams like airlines that you could also depend on. But since everybody has an iPad or a phone, even streaming revenue for airline movies have also gone down. So companies are depending more on merchandise, amusement parks. That's why you're seeing all these IPs take center stage, Marvel, Avatar. So all these big movies that you're seeing at the box office often have other rides, other merchandise, video games. So they're looking for other ways to make up the revenue that they're not making at the box office. So it's important to have that background knowledge as we go into the 5 trends, because like any movie or any movie that has a sequel, you have to understand the prologue before you understand what's coming in the future. Matt Damon also talked about this as well. I believe the interview was on the Hot Ones. That's where everybody eats like those hot, hot food and they have to talk. But Matt Damon specifically said the DVD was a huge part of our business. Our revenue stream and technology has made that obsolete. The movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played at theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release. When that went away, that changed the type of movies we could make. So that's very important to understand because that's going to affect the future. It's going to affect the revenue stream, and it's going to even affect independent filmmakers because independent filmmakers were also dependent on DVD revenue and even some theatrical revenue as well. So when you're left with only just streaming, the margins of what you can make in the film is going to decrease dramatically, and that's going to affect us the next decade and everything moving forward. So if you have any questions on that, make sure to put in the chat and I'll answer them later on in the presentation. So let's start with number 5. So 5 jobs, jobs that will be hit the hardest. These are my predictions. Again, nothing is 100% certain, but I'm pretty certain this is what we're going to see into the future. So jobs that will be hit the hardest in the industry, writers, AI being able to write complete scripts. This will be great for procedural content. So think Law and Order, Psych. I don't know if anybody watched Psych. That used to be one of my favorite shows. So anything that's procedural is going to be very easy for AI to replicate, and you're not going to need these large writing rooms. You could have maybe a couple showrunners or some head writers, and then have the AI make multiple scripts and then have people edit it. So you're not going to need these large writing rooms to fill in and create content. You could have AI software, for example, at the midpoint, have a role reversal where a character dies and the detective has to look for something else. And then the AI can track hundreds of episodes that happen in Law and Order and make a completed script. And then you have a few writers that fill in the blanks or touch up the dialogue or make things more interesting. But you're not going to need these large writing rooms to fill in the blanks when AI can do that for you. Actors and entertainers are also going to be hit hard. So instead of hiring talent for commercials or guest roles, you can use deepfakes or avatar influencers instead. I'm going to show an example of this. So if you are an actor without a brand, this is going to affect you, because instead of hiring a SAG actor who's going to need residuals and all these different things, you could just hire an influencer or even create an avatar or a deep fake of a celebrity and call it a day without having to pay those residuals out and save costs. Visual effects artists are also going to be hit. So CGI artists, storyboard artists. So we're already seeing this. You've already seen pictures where AI is already creating visual effects through prompts. So this is going to cut down. And again, like writers, you could potentially have people that do touch-ups and make things more accurate, and just have visual effects artists do the drudgery and the labor in between to cut down on cost and time. Set design and location scouting, we're already seeing these processes. When I worked on Mandalorian, they had these large LED screens. So instead of having to go in the desert to film something on Tatooine, you can just have everything done in the studio, which saves time having to take everybody from LA all the way to the high desert or some other desert, put everybody in a hotel, scout the location. If the weather is off, then you have to wait for a day of filming, put everybody back in the hotel. You don't have to necessarily do that anymore. You can just have everybody come to the studio, set up the location in the studio to look like you're in the desert, which saves a lot on costs. And with Unreal Engine and other AI tools coming, you can just make your set look like anything you want and save a ton on costs. But then again, you're not going to need as many heads for location scouting and set design. So you're also going to see jobs hit harder on that. Camera crew. So it's going to be easier to set up prompts for complex camera movement. Sadly, I had footage from CES that got kind of messed up, but what I saw, you were able to see cameras, you were able to just put in inputs from the cameras, and the cameras would have complex movements that would normally be done by other camera operators, and you can just input some buttons and the camera will move and glide without any assistance. Very cool to see, but that's something also that can be hit hard as well. Here's an article. These are Amazon novelists. And this is an example. This interview was on The Verge. And what I wanted to make note of, and again, if you want to see this, just look at theverge.com. If you want to just specifically look at this article and take a look. But this is the prompt she was able to do. She says, I am writing a paranormal mystery that takes place in a small town of Table Rock, Texas. It has a female amateur sleuth. This is her name. I need a murder victim. I need to know how they were killed. I need 4 murder suspects with information about why they're suspected and how they are cleared, and then tell me who the guilty killer is. So you can easily just type in some prompts, say, I need this to happen at the midpoint. I need this to happen during the opening act, and this is how I need the murder solved. And eventually the AI will be able to do that for you. And then you as the writer, as the creative vision, can touch it up, make improvements, make it more human and relatable, and you can just punch stories and just push them out. And that's what this writer was doing. So instead of writing 1 or 2 books a year, now she can write 8 to 10 because the AI is doing the plots for her. They're making the major beats for her. And now she just has to fill in the blanks. So that's an example of what we're seeing. That's also going to affect, again, writers' rooms for television shows and even feature films. Hallmark films as well, where there's a pattern, you can also do this as well. Here's an example of an AI prompt on Design Boom. So this is the prompt: an oil painting of a DeLorean DMC-12 hit by lightning, dark city background, wet road. And this is what it came out, which is pretty good for very few words. So the need for storyboard artists, things like that, those are also in danger. And it's, and it's just an oil painting. You could have made it, we need to look more like CGI. We need to make it more like old school Disney style. So, and this is only 2023. When we get into 2026, 2027, 2028, who knows how quickly this is going to advance. Sound like somebody was unmuted. Did somebody have a question? If they did, just please wait until we get closer to the end. So hopefully we're all adults here. The reason that I put this up is these girls are not real, supposedly. These are AI generated. So this is what I'm talking about when you can have avatar influencers for your commercials, for your advertisements, and you don't need to hire actors anymore. And they're becoming more realistic and lifelike. So other things to go over when we're talking about jobs, we're going to see, in order to decrease costs, jobs will be cut across multiple different, excuse me, I just need to move the screen a little bit. Multiple different platforms, wages and budgets for films will continue to drop in price. And everybody knows why wages and budgets for films will continue to drop in price. We talked about this earlier, with less revenue in like theatrical and home video sales, you're just going to see, and as content becomes more widespread, people are looking at social media, people have other ways to spend time on different streaming and social platforms. Eventually wages and budgets are going to get cost. And there's going to be people who make tons of money during this time, while others will have lower wages or will have to find multiple jobs to make ends meet and to get their income up. Large productions will still continue. So Avatar, Marvel, video games are going to be huge. I think video games are the next Marvel. We're already seeing success with The Last of Us. And we're going to talk about product synchronization a little later in the presentation. But for example, The Last of Us released on HBO, and then you saw the video game sales of Last of Us on PS5 increased dramatically when the first episode came out. So you're going to see more and more of that in the future as well. Other jobs that will enter the market, you're going to see new jobs. So that's also some good news as well. AR prompters. So somebody said, I saw this in a tweet today, that there was industrial age, then we're in the information age, and pretty soon we're going to be in the imagination age, where your imagination is going to be extremely important. So just like we're learning coding languages, there's going to eventually be AI prompting language. So as things get more detailed, there's going to be people who need to express their imagination into AI, and those people are going to also have new jobs where they need to understand how to speak the language in order to get exact details into the art and into the visualization of different things. So AI artists, AI law specialists, this is going to be very important. At CES, I saw that there's already lawyers on this. So pretty soon you'll be able to protect your digital image. So any actors or anybody who wants to protect your digital image, start thinking about that process now on how you can protect yourself. Just like you're able to protect a script, pretty soon you'll be able to protect your name and likeness. So law is going to be very tricky this next decade, and I'm going to go into that in just a little bit. And you're also going to see fights between the unions and other in the film industry and other industries. So SAG itself, some of the main heads at SAG were at CES 2023 this year, and this is a major concern as well. So we're going to see a fight brewing between talent, crew, unions, and producers. So you're going to see unions saying, you need to have a certain percentage of people on set. You're going to see talent say, you cannot use my image and name and likeness for this. You need to have a certain number of real actors on set. And producers are obviously thinking about cost, and they're going to want to cut down on cost to maximize profitability. So you're going to see that rift between the unions, producers, crew, talent. Unions will try to protect writers and talent, but it'll have difficulty doing so, especially if it's non-union. You're already starting to see this within SAG, that more people are doing non-union commercials instead of SAG commercials. So unions are going to have a difficult time protecting writers and talent. Law will also be challenging. So for example, to use me for example, let's say that I see a character on the show that looks exactly like me or is close to me, and I try to sue them, and the studio or the creative team says, no, Jonathan, it's not exactly you. We mixed you with a different actor, and then we used a different voice. So is that really you? So you're going to have law challenges coming in the next decade of people trying to fight to keep their name and likeness as well. And the unions will have some leverage with the larger companies. So if you have Tom Hanks on a film, Tom Hanks is obviously SAG. So if you want Tom Hanks on your film, you're still going to have to play ball with the unions. But smaller films, independent films, medium-sized companies, if they're not thinking about that, they'll probably will just not work with the unions at all and try to cut costs and save costs when they can. Because again, like we said earlier in the presentation, the margins of the film industry are getting smaller. So everybody's trying to save costs when they can. And like I talked about earlier, we're already seeing companies choosing to go non-union, especially if they're using digital commercials and commercials that are not in syndication. And when the first famous actor that passes away and allows their name and likeness to be used for holograms, deep fakes, avatars, and voice modulation will cause panic. So there was already panic when people thought Bruce Willis signed his likeness to be used, for the future, even after he dies. That caused a major scare because it's going to be a challenge for new actors that are coming up. And just for creativity in general, if you're just having the same actors 2040, 2050, 2030, and they can be used for holograms, deepfakes, avatars, it's going to be harder for other people to come up. So that's a major concern as well. So the first actor, whether that's, Harrison Ford, Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, Meryl Streep, but they just say, even after I pass away, you can use my name and likeness for shows, whatever you want. My kin gets to keep the revenue. There's going to be major challenges and scares about that. So, and this is, we're talking about voice modulation. Hopefully the audio works. I'm going to play it right now. And that's why.
Today I'm testing what looks to be the most realistic voice changer I've ever come across. It's a very impressive technology that can turn even my voice into...
For example, Morgan Freeman, I can just talk in this amazing voice, right? Or
maybe even Joe Biden. What's cool is that all the voices are community made. So people have made like
Messi from Overwatch or
Morty from my favorite show, Rick and Morty. There's also voices of celebrities, internet celebrities like
Mr. Beast. Put that in a burger.
And even Markiplier, which is pretty awesome. I'm having lots of fun with it, and it's free.
So you're already seeing this. There was a major stir. There was a forum that was able to have celebrities and the president say some very important things, very inappropriate things, and spread them across the internet. So you can already steal voices from other actors, entertainers, and put them in an audiobook, put them in your movies. You can start doing this stuff right now. It's already out there. So again, you're going to have unions, law, actors all fighting to kind of fix this, and it's going to be a mess until things get sorted out. It kind of reminds me of the old days of YouTube. I don't remember if anybody remembers that, but you could pretty much just put whatever content you want on YouTube. But then eventually they figured it out around 2015 to 2016, and you could do copyright strikes and things like that. So we're in the wild, wild west right now, but it's going to be a major fight. This is another thing you're going to see. You're going to see large companies be eaten up by multiple national or multinational companies. So I don't know if any of you've already heard of news, Apple looking to buy Disney. And then also recently in the news, WB is looking to sell some of their properties to Apple or Amazon. And the reason why they're doing this is, again, the margins on filmmaking are going down. So they are either going to want to work with a big tech company and work side by side with them, or like Fox, they're just going to want to sell the properties and say, we're done with the film business. We'll go into sports, we'll go into reality television, but we don't want any piece of this. And the reason why they're doing it is just, again, the margins are smaller, and one bad film, if your film flops at the box office, you're not a huge multinational company that could just sink it. That's why MGM sold James Bond as well. MGM sold James Bond to Amazon. They said, we're done. Take it, Amazon, use it. And Amazon, Apple, and Google are worried about different things. They're more worried about you buying into their ecosystem. So if they have Disney Plus on the iPad, they're more thinking, we're going to have content on Disney Plus. You're going to watch that. And then we'll give you special features if you buy the iPad. If you take the iPad into Disneyland, you'll have special features on the iPad, which then means more likely you're going to buy an Apple computer, which means it's more likely you're going to buy Apple Plus, which means you're more likely to buy Apple Cloud. So they're thinking of these things. So the content now is more like a commercial for other products in their ecosystem. So they're not just worried about the film revenue, they're worried about their other products as a whole. And that's going to be really important going into into the 2030s. And if you're like, oh, Jonathan, Walt Disney is a huge corporation, like that doesn't make sense. Why would they get bought out by like Google or Apple but just look at the market cap, okay? This is what I mean, a very large shark eating another predator. So the market cap for Disney is 196 billion, give or take. And again, market cap's different than cash on hand. So just keep that in mind as well. But the market cap for Disney is 196 billion. Apple is 2.43 trillion. Let me repeat that. Walt Disney is 196 billion for market cap, but Apple is 2.43 trillion. Just to give you perspective of how much bigger these companies are. Again, Amazon, 1.02 trillion. Google, 1.21 trillion. Okay, these are huge, huge companies, and they're starting to buy up other huge companies. The sharks are eating the sharks. And brands that have buying power are going to do really well. So coming up soon, you're going to have the Mario movie releasing. And the reason why they're pushing Mario so much, the new movie, well, if you watch the Mario movie, maybe you're going to want to go to Nintendo Land or Universal. And if you go to Nintendo Land or Universal, maybe your kid's going to buy a Switch there. And if they buy a Switch, maybe they're going to want the toys. So you're making money not only off the movie, you're making money off the amusement parks, you're making money off the Switch, you're making money off the games, you're making money off the toys. So there's multiple revenue streams if you have a brand. And we're going to talk about Bruce Willis again. If you don't remember, before his unfortunate illness, Bruce Willis was making so many VOD action movies, and he was just churning them out, right? So let me give an example. Hopefully this plays. So if you look, this is a motion capture studio.
I would appreciate that. All right? So I'm going to step out of the way.
This is SCS.
Have some space. Remember, this is always going to be the front. Yep.
So in the future, what I can see is other actors like Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep. If you're like, I don't want to go to set, and this is going to be very helpful, margins for films are slowing down, you can set up in the future a motion capture studio in your home. And if you're already a millionaire, it already makes sense to do this. Set up a motion capture studio in your home, do the performance from home, send the performance to the studio, and then they can create the background, they can create the imagery, you just send the performance, and you're done. You don't have to go through traffic, you don't have to get on a plane to get to set, you don't have to do any of that pretty soon. So Bruce Willis, instead of maybe doing 3 action films a month, if you really wanted to, he could crank out 5 to 10. Obviously, he doesn't want to do, you wouldn't want to do too much because it would lower your branding power, but pretty soon you won't have to be on set in order to get a performance out there. So you can save time, money, and resources to do that. And I was also thinking, I just saw Jennifer Lopez. She was advertising the new Body Armor light drink. So instead of going to set, she could easily just, go in a motion capture studio at home, do the performance, send the lines, send it to the commercial people. they do their thing, and she can stay at home, spend time with her family, her kids, not go through LA traffic, not have to get on the airplane, and she can call it a day. And I don't know how many of you watched the Super Bowl. We all saw, Rihanna performing if you did. So this is going to be another example. So for example, you could have so this is how performers can make extra money as well. You could have people watching Rihanna's performance on the television. Then you could have her hologram in different parks in metro cities, and that could be another charge to watch Rihanna performing on a realistic looking hologram, which has a sense of community. Then you can upsell even more to people who are watching them in the stadium. Then you can upsell even more to people who are close enough to touch her, and then also backstage passes. So now you can have 5 to 6 revenue streams if you're a popular music artist to make even more money on your product. So people with brands will have more opportunities in this environment to make extra revenue, while people who do not have a brand are going to struggle a little bit more finding their place in the ecosystem. And I'll take breaks now for any questions, and I'll also get a little bit of water, just a moment.
Okay, Jonathan, there are a lot of questions and very good questions, but first let's see if Carol had questions for you.
Yes, go ahead, Carol.
I'm so overwhelmed, Jonathan. I don't know where to begin. I started writing questions, but let's go to the chat bar and start there.
All right, we'll start there. So the first one, this is, ChatGPT is a common one for writing scripts that people are using. So Safia is using. Can you give example of AI bot writing scripts other than ChatGPT?
Somebody, wait, what? Ask the questions for, is that a question? Can you rephrase that, please?
Yes, yeah. So, when you write scripts, you can use AI to assist you, like ChatGPT, right?
Correct.
You can, are there any other software other than the ChatGPT that can assist you for this?
Yeah, there's gonna be multiple ones coming out. So I think people are concerned, like, what's the software right now? We're still in the infancy for it. So obviously ChatGPT is the big one, but think of this like, I don't know how many of you were an adult. I wasn't an adult, but think of the tech boom from 1990 to 2001, where you have all these companies coming up. The best way is just to stay informed, study the different ones, but there's going to be many AI companies that die out, pop up. So just keep studying. ChatGPT is the market leader, but you still got to remember that AI companies, to operate them, is still very expensive. So you're going to see a lot of investment come in. There's going to be a lot of them that die, and then there's going to be a few that succeed. Just like when Google came out of the search engine. Like, does anybody use Ask Jeeves anymore? Does anybody use MySpace? No, right? So there's going to be some that die and some that make it. And we're still totally early in the phase for me to say oh, this software is going to make it. I honestly don't even know if ChatGPT is going to make it. It's very expensive to run it, but obviously just the way that you see things develop, there will be some technology to take its place.
Okay. Here's another one from Pamela. I would think non-actors would have copyright protections from being created as an avatar. How do you
non-actors? Let's see, can they rephrase that? Are you just talking about
famous
just average
actors?
person? Are they just talking about, can the average person get protection?
Yeah, as well as, exactly. The average person, can they get protection?
I mean,
Copyright.
yeah, if you're willing to, pay for lawyers to protect your image and likeness, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, there's just there's think about all the faces like you've seen in public, right? Millions of faces. I'm just trying to think over my lifetime how many faces I've seen. And if you're like, and again, these are going to be some of the challenges legally. If you're like, that's my face on TV that looks exactly like me. Obviously, in real life, you've seen someone that looks close to you, so it's going to be a challenge. So if you're concerned about that, just start thinking, especially if you have a brand on Instagram or anything else. I'm looking into it on protecting my name and likeness and image and everything like that into the future. So
Yeah, I think there
just
will
keep them
be
in mind.
laws. Like, I think there'll be laws, right, Jonathan? It's still in its infancy right now.
Right.
Like to protect the original IP, copyright, you know, for a particular screenplay. I'm assuming this is too early to decide antitrust issues and stuff.
Correct. Just
Yeah.
start doing the research. I'm telling people to get prepared now. So it's great that all this information is out now, so you can start preparing for it. So just be ready. Just be ready. Start. And there's still lawyers that are looking into this. Like, all the answers are not there. Lawyers are even like, you know, how is the best way to protect people and to make sure everything's okay. And again, there's going to be major cases like this. Like, what if somebody has your face, but there's a mole right here or different freckles? Well, is that still your face? Or is that a new person?
Okay.
We don't have answers to these questions yet. So it's very tricky.
All right. And then Virginia is asking, please talk about all the film crew that may still be needed. You know, I would think the crew will still be needed, or would some lose their jobs? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it depends on the budget for the film. So large crews will still be needed for like large films. Like if you're making something for Avatar, businesses are still concerned that they have to get a product out at a certain time because they're concerned about their stockholders. So if they don't release Avatar 3 by a certain date, that's going to affect their earnings and that's going to affect their stock price. So they're going to need people to push that product out at a faster time. But there's only so many people that can work in these large companies, right? There's only a certain amount of people. And then obviously you're going to have Netflix that's still going to put content out. People that will need to be saved. So I'm thinking anything that requires large creative energy. So why am I blanking out the name? There's below the line and above the line. So above the line is still going to be very much needed. Everybody who's making those creative decisions are still going to be very important. Sadly, I think it's the below the line crew that's going to be hit the hardest. So the lower budget the projects, they're going to start looking at who we can cut below the line. Even for smaller features, especially if you're making a feature for Tubi or other streaming platforms. So let me just look at levels, okay? You're going to have independent, medium. Netflix, Amazon are still going to make a few medium projects, but even the mediums are going to get cut down a little bit because movies like Babylon, that flopped. That was a $100 million movie and it flopped. So the Oscar movies, the ones that we really like Fight Club and I'm trying to think like another, Good Will Hunting, No Country for Old Men, those are struggling at the theaters and they need that theater revenue. So unless Amazon just wants to make that specifically for their audience, those aren't going to be made. And Oscar movies are also going to struggle because people aren't watching them in theaters. And unless people just want to win awards, they're just not as concerned about it. And now even, you know, originally it was, you know, Netflix makes the adult content and the theater business just for the kids and the roller coaster movies. But now, because of Disney and the success of The Mandalorian, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, they want to get into the IP business too. So you're going to see 3 layers of content. You're going to see lower budget films that are interested in VOD, which means video on demand revenue, and those margins are going down. Your film can make anywhere from $5,000 to $300,000, but it's going to be harder to make more money than that. Then you're going to have the mid-budget films, Blumhouse, Netflix that just wants to make interesting or adult content, and then the majors. And that's pretty much going to be it. And it's sad to see, but a lot of the mid-budget films are going to get cut. And the lower you go down between high budget, mid-budget, and low budget, the more crew is going to get cut. And it's going to be a production basis on who is needed and who is not. But they will save costs by any means.
Okay. Good question here came from Bruce, and many here are documentary. filmmakers, and they're asking, what do you think documentaries will fit in this next generation of AI? And to follow up with this question, Shwila is asking, how do you demonstrate integrity for the audiences who seek it, especially with documentaries?
For documentaries, that's a good question. So documentaries, for the most part, have a small crew already. So most likely the streamline and the flow of how you make documentaries are just going to be easier to do. So you're just going to look for certain tasks to be done quicker with machine learning and AI. But for the most part, documentaries will remain relatively the same, I think. So you're still going to need real people for documentaries. You're going to be telling real stories. So that's a good question. Honestly, I think documentaries are going to be okay for the most part. You're just going to look on how to make the streamlining process quicker, how to make edits quicker, and you're still going to need real people for those. So documentaries are still going to be good.
Okay, and a follow-up question, Margie is asking, so with this in mind, for the future, where are you better off? Better off to more develop a film or a reality show? What type of film would be better with the future AI?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that the second half. That's a really great question,
okay.
but I will, yeah, I'm going to go over. So I know this is all the bad news, right? I understand everybody. I'm going to go over some of the good news as well. So that's the second half. I'm seeing a lot of like, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of like, what about the craft? What about the craft?
Yes.
It's going to be important. I'm going to get there, but it's important to understand. I also see somebody like, this isn't really about AI. This is more about the business models. You need to understand the business models. I understand that people want to talk about the craft, but if you don't understand where, in hockey they say you need to understand where the puck is going. If you don't understand where the puck is going, then you're going to be caught unaware. I'm sorry. I know this is bad news for a lot of people, but you got to understand what's going on in the film business.
Okay, let's take two more questions and then we'll go to the second part of our presentation. So Simone is asking, what advice would you give for film schools teaching screenwriting, TV writing, and all other production crafts? And I think there was something in the news today about a student who used AI to pass their exams, but then somehow they were able to tell. So that's the question. And then we'll have one more question and then go to your second part.
So answer that question, right? What should they teach about writings in film schools and things like that? Was that the question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, the craft's still gonna be very important. So I see people like asking like, what about the craft? What about the craft? Craft's still gonna be extremely important. So think about large writing rooms and redundancy. So in order to still have that human touch, you're still gonna have to be at the top of your craft. And the people who are at the top of the craft, they're also going to be more likely to stay hired and also make the most money. So instead of having, for example, a whole room of writers may only have a team of 1 to 3, and those who are extremely good at their craft will be able to elevate the material that the AI is working on those scripts, and then you'll be able to elevate that material. So especially in the future, in the first upcoming years, it's going to be used to make the process faster. And the people who are at the top of their craft are going to be able to make it more human, make it more real, more relatable to an audience, and just punch up what the what they're getting from the software. So yes, you're going to need to learn your craft. You're going to need to still know how we connect to stories. Craft is still going to be very important. So that's what I would tell to people who want to succeed. You got to understand your craft at the highest level, and it's going to be very competitive for some of these jobs. So you're going to want to be the best at what you do in order to, especially if you want to be in these larger studio projects, because there's only going to be so many jobs and availability there.
Okay, let's take one question from Didi and then we can go to continue your presentation. What are the genuine they're looking for genuine benefits, and I think you talked a few about this, genuine benefits of AI for independent filmmakers who make low budget films.
Yes, I'm going to go over that in the second half, but it's honestly probably, we're talking about how this benefits the studios. it's going to benefit independent filmmakers quite a bit, because you're just going to have more access to tools that you didn't have before. So you're like, man, I need a visual effects artist for this. I need this for that. I need a large crew to get this shot. And you're not going to need all that soon. So even though the margins for independent filmmaking is going down, instead of needing a crew of 30, what if you only need a crew of 5 to get the same level of imagination and craft into a good film? So I'm going to talk about that as well. There are going to be some business benefits and artistic benefits as well.
Okay, I think we can go to the.
I just
okay.
wanted to ask to say that, Jonathan, what I've been seeing with documentaries is that they are using Zoom interviews, which are acceptable to most of us, rather than flying to that city and getting a hotel and taking your cameraman and your sound person and making that interview. And that's going to save them money. And as a grantor, that's totally acceptable to me. I think we'll find that that's something they can do.
Yeah, you're going to see more of that. People so technology is there to speed things up. That's always the direction of humanity. Like, people don't want to hang laundry. We have laundry machines for that, right? So the direction is always to make things faster and to make things easier and to make things more efficient. I do want to answer one more question. I believe it's Lauren that said, the artist in me is struggling to see the benefits here. I see the business benefits, but not the artistic ones. I just want to make this point clear. I'm only the messenger. I'm sorry. Businesses don't often care about artistic choices. They really don't. They want you to create product, consume product, do that cycle again. They want you in their ecosystem. And for the most part, people are going to accept it. I'm sorry. Me as an artist struggles with this as well, but it is what it is.
Wow.
They're about profit and money. That's what businesses are.
Well, tell us the good side. Is there
Okay. All right. Let's see. So is everybody ready? Does anybody have any more questions? I've seen a lot of things on the chat. The chat is on fire.
There's a lot of questions, but I think in the instance of time, we have only 13 minutes. If we can go through the presentation, and then we'll take questions.
Okay. So let me do that. All right, so I'm going to go over what to look out for and to think more in the future of how independent creators and filmmakers can actually excel in this area. So we went over all the bad news in the first half. So take a deep breath. Let's look at some good things. Okay, so it's time to let some of the old ways and old thinking die. And this was a struggle for me when I moved to Los Angeles the first time. I did everything. I was a bartender. I was working in sales. I was tutoring. I was looking for different ways to make ends meet, and then go through that old way of, I'm going to go through casting. I'm going to rise up. I'm going to do independent film. And then I'm going to get to a studio film. And then I'm going to get to my Oscar film. And I'm going to do this. Those old models are dying slowly, but there's going to be other opportunities and ways to make a difference. Now, obviously, there's going to be somebody who was living in their car and then they went to that audition and they had that big hit that propelled them. We're going to see that story less and less. So it's very important to let the old models, the old way of thinking die so you can see the opportunities that are ahead of you. And then it's important. You got to think, I'm not just a screenwriter. I'm not just an actor. I'm not just a filmmaker. You are a storyteller. And you're going to need to start thinking of different ways to tell your story in multiple platforms. So somebody asked, like, which AI software is going to succeed? Which machine learning program is going to succeed? You need to constantly study new trends. You need to think about that as a job and be prepared. You need to learn how to interact with artificial intelligence applications. So when we're talking about independent projects, if you know how to do certain prompts and you know how to interact with whatever popular software is out in the future, you may, if you have an independent film, you may not need to hire a VFX artist. You can do the work yourself. So you can create the prompts, you can use your imagination to create a large sci-fi film and and keep your costs down for your independent film and compete with some of the larger studios who have their stuff out. So there's going to be opportunities for people who are willing to buckle down and learn these different tools. And be prepared to tell your stories through different avenues: books, games, applications, songs, not just movies. And learn multiple crafts. So be good at writing, be good at acting, be good at directing. In this new environment, you're going to have more opportunities if you're good at more than one thing. A book that I highly recommend is Deep Work by Cal Newport. It teaches you how to learn very quickly with a short amount of time. So I highly recommend that book. I would take time to write that book down and study it. And this is going to be very key. And I'm going to repeat this. Everybody write this down. If you don't get anything else, do this. You must have a brand, an IP, or social media presence. In a time of artificial reality, people will need to have some sort of personal connection. So that means social media. If you have a presence on Instagram, YouTube, etc., this is going to give you more opportunities. We already saw, man, I'm blanking on her name, but she was a big influencer on TikTok, and Netflix gave her a huge deal to make multiple movies on Netflix. So people with large social media presence are going to get more and more opportunities to work with major studios and to get their name out there. Even if you are a guest performer, they're still going to want you to have some sort of brand so you can advertise their show. So having a social media presence is going to be important. If you don't want to get involved in social media, you're like, that's not me, I hate it, I just want to focus on the craft, then make an IP. So think like, okay, I'm going to create this character, or I'm going to create this book series, and then that property can be used for multiple mediums. It can be used for film, it can be used for education, it can be used for gaming. And if it gets big enough, you can potentially sell that IP to one of these larger conglomerates, and you can decide to either work with them or to sell it. And then now you have an opportunity to also make financial means. And then if you're like, I don't want to get involved in any of that, then you got to, at the very least, have connections in the industry where people know you. That casting director is like, yes, that actor is awesome, they're dependable, they're on time, I want to hire that person. So you cannot not be known. Somebody needs to have a human connection with you and needs to know you in some way in order to succeed in this environment. Somebody needs to know you and say, and have that human to human connection with you and like bonds with you in some sort of way. Maybe they like your smile, maybe they like your face, maybe they like your dependability, maybe they like your IP that you created, but they need to have something about you. If your audience feels nothing about you, it's going to be hard to succeed in this environment. Because if nobody feels anything about you, then why not have an avatar created for you? Or why not hire Chuck Norris's hologram to do it? Okay, so it's very important to have some sort of presence. Hold on, it's not moving. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity for independent creators to take control of the market. So here's the really good news. Studios will focus more on larger properties. Why are they focused on larger properties? Because of the ecosystem. They're going to think, I want to sell this IP so I can sell more toys, sell more video games. They're going to be concerned like, I want to make Last of Us Season 2 so I can sell Last of Us the video game. And there are going to be people that are like, man, I'm tired of these IPs. I want some original content. This is where independent creators can take over. Audiences are still going to want original content that they emotionally connect with. So with the help of technology, small teams, you can have an independent film with a team of 1 to 10 people. And as technology progresses, you're going to have Unreal Engine, you're going to have LED screens, you're going to have cameras that can do the work of a large camera team. So even though their crew sizes are going to get smaller, you're still going to be able to make really great content that people love, and they're going to be much less expensive to make. So pretty soon you're going to have people that make really impressive sci-fi films with a team of 5 to 10. And the audiences are going to make it. And even if your film makes only about $50,000 on Tubi or a VOD platform, or also consider cryptocurrency, So I can see something like Ethereum, somebody uses Ethereum to invest in your film, and they're going to want to advertise your film, and they also make a percentage of your profit in film in Ethereum. So there's also going to be the era of cryptocurrencies and other digital currencies where people can invest in your project, and they're going to want to share your film so they can get a percentage of the film as well. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for independent creators to fill in the spots that the studios are no longer interested in making. So there's the good news. Okay, if you start studying, you will be able to do the job of multiple people, and you're still going to make impressive content.
Wow.
Yeah, so here's some examples. A 17-year-old recently just made a deal with A24. They had a series on YouTube and it blew up. And yeah, now they're going to direct a feature film for A24. So they're not looking for the next Denzel. They're not looking for the next Tarantino. They're looking for people who already have a brand and a presence and an audience. And they want to pick those people off the street and give them a platform to get their stories out. So this is why having a social brand and an IP is important, because if you have the audience, there's going to be a larger company that wants your audience, and they're going to give you a platform to spread it. So this is why an IP is important. Here's a bonus. I want to talk, without getting too political, AI is not going to only affect the film industry, but the future as well as for many people who have jobs. So I'm just going to say it. I think there's going to be a form of basic guaranteed income. I don't see any other direction. And which means with either people working part-time or not working at all, people are just going to be consuming content. Already, this was a stats on Statista. Already, 5 to 6 hours of people on their cell phones, just looking at their smartphone, 5 to 6 hours, 46%, 7 hours or more, 11%. So that's over what, 57% of people on their phone for more than 5 hours a day? Isn't that crazy? So people are going to constantly consume content. So somebody needs to make the content, right? So why not you?
Right.
They're going to be consuming, somebody needs to make them. And it's only going to get worse when people don't have jobs and they're going to want to get out of that depressive state, and they're going to need people who they relate to. And so content's going to have to constantly be made. And Netflix is looking at the Tubi model. So I wanted to make this point. So VOD is going to be a great avenue for independent filmmakers. So Warner Brothers, Netflix are eyeing a free business model too as well. So over 61 million viewers a month are on Tubi now. So you're going to see a lot of independent directors go there to get VOD revenue. The problem with that is as more VOD content is made, there's going to be more content that oversaturates the market. So it's going to be very important to have an audience and to look at your margins for your film. So again, if you make a film that only makes 5,000 on VOD, but you spent 20 grand on it, you're in the red. So plan to make content that costs in between 5 to 50,000, and hope that your revenue makes as much as you can. And some are going to do really well, but I think the upper end is going to be about $250,000 to $300,000 per film for VOD. That's going to be the upper limit. And if you're lucky, it blows up, or Netflix or somebody buys it or buys your property. But that's probably going to be the upper end for VOD films on Tubi and things like that. And yes, one more thing. So in the future, there's going to be opportunities for independent filmmakers and independent creators to make millions and billions. You need to understand this. So if a metaverse application takes off, there'll be opportunities for creators to sell education, merchandise, virtual experiences, microtransactions. So
we'll have to have VR devices.
Oh, okay, in order to use it at all. Yeah. So in the future, if VR takes off, people will be able to buy certain merchandise that you make. So for example, they could buy your shirt in a virtual world, and then they get shipped from Amazon after they made a purchase in the virtual world to their doorstep. And if we ever have another lockdown, I could see in the future, again, not trying to be political, a climate lockdown, another pandemic, then again, people are going to want to stay at home, get more involved in the virtual world, which gives you an opportunity to create virtual experiences, sell virtual items, sell merchandise. And when you sell virtual items, there is no limit to the amount of money you can make because it's digital. So you can sell as much as you want. And again, I know we're all creatives and we don't want to talk about business, but I'm just trying to open everybody's eyes at the opportunity that's here for independent creators. I mean, Minecraft was done by a very small team, and that person, I forgot his name, became a billionaire off Minecraft. So there's opportunities out there for very small teams and individual creators. And that's it. With the rest of the time, I'll answer any questions. I know we're running short on time, but I'll answer a few more.
Yes, Nahid, we want to get as many questions answered as possible.
Okay, the one that came up, I think, on
Wait,
the
can I answer a
metaverse,
question real quick? I see a lot of people
yes.
asking, what is a metaverse application?
Yes.
So Meta for Facebook, we don't know which meta application is going to blow up. Like I said, we're in the Ask Jeeves, Google era where there's so many search engines, but we don't know which one's going to succeed. So we don't know yet. Whichever one the audience gravitates to and likes, that's the one that everybody's going to want to go to. Just like there's YouTube, BitChute, things like that. Obviously, YouTube is keen. So we don't know what the keen in the metaverse is going to be yet. But there's going to be one. We just don't know yet. It's early.
Well, Jonathan,
Okay.
let me ask you something. You're saying, in effect, to keep your independent film budgets around 250,000 for a feature?
Much lower, much lower. I would say 5 to 50,000.
For a feature, 5 to 50?
Yes, in the upper end of revenue, from what I'm seeing from Tubi and other producers that I've talked to, the upper end is 150 to 250,000. You can make your film for much more, by any means, but from what I've seen from other producers, because I talk to a lot of producers, the upper end for revenue for VOD is around 150 to 250,000.
Okay. Revenue from VOD is 150 up, maybe 200,000. So you have
there's
to
going to
make
be some people who make more, but that's the upper end.
So you really need to be a writer, producer, director so that you cover all those 3 expensive jobs.
Yep.
Right?
That's
That's why
where
you learn everything you can.
Yeah, and that's where AI is going to be important. So instead of saying, man, I need to hire a visual effects artist to have this alien scene, study AI prompts and make it yourself. Yeah, shoot it on your phone. Somebody says shoot it on your phone. Apple phones are getting amazing. Like just, get your phone, make your film, have the effects made by AI. Now you don't have to hire a visual effects artist. The 16 to 17-year-olds are going to figure this out.
Okay.
Really quickly, how can you pay yourself and others for $5,000? Now you're going to have to build an audience, and your audience is going to have to see it and pay for it. Like, I'm just going to have to do it. The margins are going down on film, guys. I'm sorry, I hate to break the news to you.
But you're a producer and director and actor, so are you using all of this to make your next film?
My first film. We had a small crew, and we have the director that I'm co-producing with. We have a way of making the film where they have all the equipment, so we're saving on equipment and time. And then our split, so all of us are now working without a salary, and then we get the split of whatever revenue we make from the film. So we're doing a lot of work up front and then splitting the revenue based on the film. So we have all the initiative and incentive to advertise this film as much as we can.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. What else, Nahid, should we ask?
The one question here is, there'll be huge fights between the unions and software companies and the studios. How would this be sorted out, Jonathan?
Say it again.
Between the union, it's making us think, this is from Lauren, unions will need to step in with some protections because there'll be a huge fight between the unions, software companies, and the studios.
Yeah. I talked a little bit of this about the beginning. They're going to have more leverage on larger companies. So Apple, Google, Amazon, they're going to have more leverage just because some of your bigger names are going to be connected to the unions. And because, again, bigger companies are more concerned about their other products, their other computers, software, and they're concerned about stockholders so they want to push their content in a certain time frame. So they're gonna play ball with the unions. But the smaller independent companies, they're not gonna play ball. They'll figure out
let's
other
take
ways.
let's take one more question, and then Carol can ask the film buff questions, so we can get winners here. So the last question I'll ask Jonathan is, with this AI coming up for the future, a lot of companies, Apple, Amazon, you name it, Microsoft just invested in ChatGPT. They put in a lot of money.
Yeah.
For an investor, this is just getting your brain and your thoughts on this. What company do you think would do well and worth investing in?
The company that I'm most thinking about right now is me. I'm thinking about myself and creating IPs and creating content, seeing the horizons. You should be thinking more about yourself, invest in yourself, because we're still early. Okay. Obviously, there's going to be companies, but I'm more concerned about investing in myself, because if I prepare early, I have more opportunities to either say, no, I'm keeping my audience, I'm keeping that revenue, or you can sell to a large company.
So create more presence of yourself in the social media. You know, the more you are seen, the more your brand is seen, then the more you get recognized and you get more opportunities.
Yes. And then I see Dave also like talking in the chat. I understand the concerns, Dave. I'm just telling you, I've talked with a lot of producers, distributors. I see the margins. So there's 95% of independent films don't make money. It is what it is. Like, I understand that it's bad news. I agree with paying people. Absolutely. I do pay people. I'm talking about the producers as a whole. I wear multiple hats. I will do what it takes to get a film out. I understand the margins. So I will do a lot of work up front and see what happens. I always pay the other people that are in the project, but I myself will take a pay cut in order to get a film out. You got to do what you got to do in this new marketplace.
Okay. Carol, you want to talk about the film question?
Yes. Let's lighten it up a bit.
Yes.
Jonathan is born on the same day as one of my favorite filmmakers, Akira Kurosawa. Okay. So this is like going back in time now. I feel like we've just seen the future. So here are the questions. What's the name of the Kurosawa film where Martin Scorsese has a part in the film? All right. It's beautiful. It's in Technicolor. And it was my first introduction to him. I fell in love with his work with this film. It's magnificent.
Well, we already have an answer. And yes. I think Dawn has it. Dreams.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay.
Congratulations, Dawn.
Coppola and Lucas were great fans of Kurosawa. In fact, they helped Kurosawa raise money for a historical masterpiece that Kurosawa tried to fund most of his life, called Kagemusha. So I know you can all relate to having a film that you're driven to make, and that's how Kurosawa was about this film. He made a short, but that was not what he wanted. So before he died, he wanted to tell the story of the Kagemusha. So what a wonderful gift that Coppola and Lucas helped him find the money. It's important for us to know that even our greatest filmmakers had trouble sometimes trying to find money. So you have to make your decision to never give up, to listen to Jonathan and take on more hats, brand yourself, and move forward. Now, the question is, next question is, we have a film that's out now. It's not the film, but the actor for the film is up for an Academy Award. I want you to give me the name of the film that it's being used. They're using a Kurosawa film to make, it's a remake of it. So if you can find the name of the Kurosawa film that's currently out with Academy Awards for Best Actor, and it's a story that Kurosawa wrote. And there is the shot that his poster was a shot of an older man with stacks of paper on his desk, and he looked very depressed and dismal. So what's the name of that film?
Kathleen got it. Living. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Okay. Now, if you really want to study something wonderful, I'll tell you, there's a book called Everything I Know About Filmmaking I Learned from Watching Seven Samurai. If you read the book and watch the film together, it's as good as any film course, because Kurosawa was a genius with story structure and camera. So what we want to do now is see if you can name 3 actors who played James Bond. There are a lot of men who played James Bond over the years. So see if you can put 3 of them down and win the 3-hour from film funding class.
I guess Lauren won it. Pierce Brosnan, Sean Connery, and Daniel Craig. Congratulations, Lauren.
Great. Now, I just want to remind you that you guys are our greatest asset. Your independent filmmakers have always been the smartest, the most genius of people. So this, what we've heard today, just tells you, put on your thinking cap, as your mother would tell you, and move into this new world and make it pay off for you. All right, so keep educating yourself, like Jonathan said, because knowledge is the key to success. And never give up, because each of you are an artist and you're highly gifted. So let your mantra be, I'm an award-winning filmmaker, okay? So I invite you to join us for our next event, which will be working on the power of your mind. And I think we're all going to need it to move into the new world. Jonathan, you did a marvelous job, and we all thank you for putting all the time and the love and the support, and thank you for doing this.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Yeah, so I see a lot of people, there's a lot of sad, there was one comment in, there is no other industry that works on such low wages, work for free basis or deferred payments, and always in a speculative way. That is correct. That is one sad thing, especially when you're in independent filmmaking, other filmmaking. Again, that's why I made it really clear in the beginning why it's so hard, is because we don't sell DVDs anymore. Does anybody know the margins on DVDs? DVDs are really cheap to make, and they used to sell them for 15 to 20 bucks a pop, and people would buy them. There's a lot of money to be made out DVDs. And since no one watches DVDs anymore, they just watch Netflix or streaming, that revenue is gone. No one's going to theaters anymore, or as much, right? And they're not watching what just recently happened to all the Oscar films. They flopped. Babylon flopped. Bones and All, I think, did okay. What was that other film? The Me Too movie that recently came out that was supposed to be a big Oscar hit, or was going to be. It flopped as well. And by flop, I don't mean bad film, I mean revenue-wise. So the margins are going down, and then if all you have is ad streaming revenue, there's only so much money to be made. So you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to do a lot of work up front to build an audience, many times without money. I have, and I still feel like I'm in the very beginning stages, I have sacrificed a lot of my time, energy, blood, sweat, tears, slowly building an audience, getting people to know who I am. And you're going to have to do that work up front if you want to succeed. I wish there was another way, I really do, but the times are changing. You're going to have to do that work up front in order to give yourself the best possible chance to succeed.
Okay, we need that. We need to know where to go and what to do. So thank you, Jonathan. We'll see, because I ran into an avatar at my local store. I was going to Macy's in this little mall and walked down there, and there was it was like a woman standing there, but it wasn't a woman, it was an avatar talking.
And that wasn't an actress, right? That was an avatar.
It was an avatar, a
That could have been
salesperson.
right. That could have been another salesperson or an actor that could have performed that, but they didn't use it.
No.
Great example.
Okay. Well, I hope you come back in 6 months and update us. How about that?
That I would love to, especially if anybody wants me back. I think there's some people happy, but a lot of people are killing the messenger in here, but I would love to come back.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. We really appreciate you. And
Of
Nahid,
course.
you did a marvelous job. Thank you very much. All
Yes,
of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll send the recording to everyone that registered for the class. We'll send the recording in the next 2 days. You'll have the recording of our class.
Okay. And thank you, Jonathan. You'll have a recording too. You did a fabulous job.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody that attended. If you, also, if you have questions for me, send me a DM at Malibu Cinema and, or send me an email. So if I didn't answer your question, I'll try to answer your question as soon as possible. I'm in the middle of filming a feature, so I'll get to everybody as soon as I can. So send me an email, send me a DM, and I'll do my best to answer it. Your
Okay.
DM, Malibu, let me play something.
Yeah, I'll
real
put
quick.
it for, yeah, okay. I can type it in, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's also right here as well.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So yeah, take a moment to see that. Email me, send me a DM, and I'll try to answer any questions as soon as I can. Also, if you're interested, I plan to give a free minute course on how I made this first feature. It will be completely free for anybody that was in this presentation. And as I grow my social media following, I might release a course in 2024. But yeah, that's it.
Okay. That's wonderful. I'll be the first to sign up, Jonathan. I want to see that.
Thank you.
I've come a long way because remember I started buying short ends from film when there were like 5 cameramen on a crew.
Yeah.
And now the camera does it itself. That's incredible.
It's getting there. It's getting there. I wish I could have showed the footage at CES. It was incredible. The camera was moving, gliding, complex camera movements all by itself. It was incredible. With the LED screen in the back as the background. It was incredible.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Lots of good luck to you.
All right. See everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Nahid.